Welcome back. In this section, I'm going to take you on a quick tour of various French landscapes. Okay, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with a number of them, all right? But have you ever taken a quick 15-minute journey, so to speak, around the country? No. Well, that's the idea. The reason? I want to illustrate the country's diversity. Let me share something with you here. When I put this section together, I had a bit of a wow moment myself. Because yes, France is a beautiful country. Anyway, maybe you're not sure yet where you could buy your house. Maybe you're still trying to decide which part of the country you want to explore. Or maybe you're just planning your next field visit. Whatever situation you're in, I'm looking to help you expand your horizons. Now, please keep in mind that this section's not meant to be an all-encompassing presentation of the country or some sort of a tourism guide. I just want to give you some ideas. Right. Ready? Let's jump in. When you think of France, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I would bet it's the Eiffel Tower overlooking the river Seine in the City of Lights, right? Or Cannes, mostly in May during the film festival. Or Monaco, with its super yachts and its fairy tale prince and family. Or Omaha Beach and other D-Day sites. Or possibly Giverny and the House of Monet, the famous painter. But obviously, France is much more than that. So let's start with Paris. It's located in the center of the northeastern part of the country, in the most populated region, with over 12 million inhabitants, which is called Île-de-France. The actual metropolis is called Le Grand Paris, with over 8 million people. And then there is Paris as you know it, often called Intramuros, which means within the walls, with over 2 million inhabitants. Paris Intramuros is fairly comparable to Manhattan, whereas Le Grand Paris is kind of comparable to the whole of New York City with the 5 boroughs. In Europe, Le Grand Paris and the Greater London are fairly close in size, about 1,500 square kilometers, and population around 8 million. So, about Paris. It's said to be a city of 7 hills, but it's not so obvious, if you ask me. Apart from Montmartre, of course, with Le Sacré-Cœur at the top, which offers a nice 360-degree view of the city. That church, Le Sacré-Cœur, was built in 1875, just after the Germans defeated France in 1870, to ask God for forgiveness following a century of sin and immorality after the French Revolution, implying that said sin was the cause of the military defeat. Another historical detail. The name Montmartre stems from Mont of Mars, when it was a Gallic temple a good 3,500 years ago. La Tour Montparnasse is the tallest and pretty much the only high-rise in Paris Intramuros. 210 meters, 59 floors, only offices, no residential apartment. But there are a few restaurants at the top. The most well-known is called, aptly, Le Ciel de Paris. There is a ring road around Paris called Le Boulevard Périphérique, which marks the boundary between the city and its suburbs. What's inside the ring road is called Intramuros, within the walls. Just outside of Le Périphérique, west of Paris Intramuros, there is La Défense, a business district with lots of skyscrapers, comparable to the city of London, only smaller. In Paris, there are about 3,000 kilometers of tunnels. That's the largest underground network in the world. Old catacombs, sewers, passageways, originally built for defense and transportation, and recently, around the 1900s, the subway called Le Métro, some bits of which are actually above ground, like near the Eiffel Tower. Then you need to know about the two other largest French cities, Lyon and Marseille. With just over 100 square kilometers, Paris is the most populated of the three. 2.1 million people in Paris, 870,000 in Marseille, and under 520,000 in Lyon. But only average-sized territory, just a third of Marseille with 241 square kilometers, but twice as large as Lyon with 48 square kilometers. Lyon is 3 hours drive south of Paris. Its city center is situated on a peninsula called La Presqu'île, which means the almost island. Lyon is a city of bridges, over 400 of them, spanning the Rhône and Saône rivers, making it one of the most bridge-crossed cities in the world. La Presqu'île is surrounded by steep hills including Fourvière, La Croix-Rousse, ou La Croix-Luisée, which all offer stunning views of the city center. 5 hours south of Lyon is the city of Marseille. A bit like Lyon, Marseille is nestled in a semicircle of limestone hills with the sea on the south. A bit like Paris, the city is overlooked by a white church called Notre-Dame de la Garde, built in the 1860s in a style that obviously inspired the Sacré-Cœur architects in Paris. The sea is central to the Marseille spirit. The city has been a vital port for thousands of years, since the Celts, before the Greeks, before the Romans, making the city a key hub on Europe's first and main trade route. There are 26 calanques in Marseille, in a national park surprisingly set within the city limits, along the 20-kilometer coast all the way to Cassis to the east. These calanques are named for their shape, which is similar to a small cove. They are typically steep-sided and narrow, with turquoise waters that are perfect for swimming and snorkeling. They're all protected now, and they attract so many visitors that access is restricted during the summer. There are also a number of smaller, lesser-known cities in France, most beautiful and nice to live in, among which Toulouse, population 495,000, which is often called the Pink City, La Ville Rose, due to the predominant use of pink terracotta bricks in many of its buildings. Toulouse is also the home of Airbus, the aircraft manufacturer. Montpellier in the south, 2 hours from Marseille, with a population of 290,000, is home to the oldest botanical garden in France, established in 1593, and a very lively university town. Bordeaux, 258,000 inhabitants, is not only renowned for its wines, but also for having one of the largest preserved urban areas from the 18th century in the world. Grenoble, southwest of Lyon, population 160,000, is often considered the capital of the Alps because of its location at the foot of the mountains. Aix-en-Provence, north of Marseille, population 147,000, has thermal springs that have been used for centuries. The name itself contains a reference to water, as Aix means water in the local language. And it's also the birthplace of post-impressionist painter Paul Cézanne in 1839. Annecy, near Geneva, population 127,000. It's often called the Venice of the Alps due to the river winding through the old town, and it's another gateway to the Alps, popular with skiers and outdoor enthusiasts. In the west of France, in Brittany, Saint-Malo, population 46,000. It's known for its dramatic high tidal range. That's the difference between sea levels at high and low tide, up to 14 meters out there. And it's also the gateway to the English Channel Islands 80 kilometers to the north. France has over 3,400 kilometers, about 2,100 miles of coastlines, making it, again, the largest in Europe with very different landscapes. From the north of France and Normandy, with tall cliffs comparable to the white cliffs of Dover on the other side of the channel. Le Mont Saint-Michel, which is right on the border between Normandy and Brittany. Brittany with La Pointe du Raz of the western tip of continental Europe. And some beaches with pristine waters like in the Caribbean Sea, not quite the same temperatures though. And then the Atlantic shore in Aquitaine, down to the Basque Country, onto the Mediterranean Sea, the French side of Catalonia, then the flat, long shorelines in the Languedoc and Camargue, then more rocky shores, like around Saint-Tropez, and La Riviera towards Italy, and finally Corsica, 170 kilometers into the sea, but weirdly part of metropolitan France. France is also home to some serious mountains. Les Alpes are Europe's most significant range, forming a natural border with Italy and Switzerland, with Le Mont Blanc, the highest peak in Western Europe at 4,808 meters at last count. Obviously, Les Alpes are popular for skiing, mountaineering, and outdoor activities. Then you have Les Pyrénées in the south, which form a natural border between France and Spain, stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea. Another popular destination for hiking, skiing, and wildlife enthusiasts. In Le Massif Central, l'Auvergne, which is known for its volcanic landscapes and plateaus. The region is less frequented by tourists compared to the Alps et les Pyrénées, making it a quieter destination. Finally, Haute-Provence, which is the elevated and mountainous parts of Provence, some sort of extensions of the Alps ranging to the south. The region is home to the Observatoire de Haute-Provence, an astronomical observatory established in the 1930s, which is one of the oldest observatories in the world. And then there are the forests. Approximately 31%, a third, of the total land area in France is covered by forests, making the country one of the most forested one in Europe. A substantial portion, about 75% of French forests, is privately owned. The rest is managed by the government or local authorities, like La Forêt de Fontainebleau, which has been protected since the 1500s with the King François I. Lots of forest types, including deciduous and coniferous forests. Common tree species include oak, beech, pine, spruce, and fir. Some forests, like La Sainte-Victoire near Aix-en-Provence, are designated as protected areas or national parks, the idea being to preserve unique ecosystems and biodiversity. To complete this quick tour of French landscapes, there is the French countryside, mostly forests, rolling hills, vineyards, and agricultural fields. From the north, let's start with Les Hauts-de-France near Belgium, which is not as flat as some think. Then l'Île-de-France, all around Paris. Driving 30 minutes from the capital metropolis takes you in the heart of the farming countryside. On the eastern side of France, near Germany, there is Alsace, mostly wine country with lush forests. Immediately west of Île-de-France, La Beauce, is a very flat part of the country with the largest and wealthiest farms, a bit like in American farming Great Plains. La Bretagne. We've had a peek at its coastlines. They are most pretty arid with lots of moors, but there's also the center of Brittany with large forests like Brocéliande, all on pretty flat land. La Forêt de Brocéliande is a legendary forest steeped in mythology, often associated with the Arthurian legends and tales of chivalry. Then La Bourgogne, pretty much in the center of the country, obviously famous for its wines, but there's also a lot of traditional farming there too. Le Gers, the country of foie gras and Armagnac. It's also the birthplace of a guy called Charles de Bat-Castelmort d'Armagnac, who's known as D'Artagnan. He's the famous musketeer who served Louis XIV as captain of the Musketeers of the Guard and inspired Alexandre Dumas' novel, The Three Musketeers. La Provence, very dry, a mix of farming plains and semi-mountains. Provence is usually associated with lavender fields and vineyards, but its agriculture is quite diverse, encompassing also orchards, poultry, vegetables. South of Avignon, east of the Rhône River, into the sea, is La Camargue, very, very flat because it's actually a reclaimed swamp.